here, and then I have to click here. So, as we know, the Eastern wisdom has twofold goals. One is to bring an end to the suffering. Suffering includes anxiety, stress, grief, a constant fear, hesitation, anger. And the second goal is to awaken to inner peace and happiness. But we already know about peace and happiness. No. We are talking of the peace and happiness all the time, in all locations, in all relations, in all the relations, at all times. It is beyond time, space, and any causation. That is the goal. So Eastern wisdom and our masters always tell us that constant contemplation and thinking and reflecting on it, our goal should be to evolve, to rise in consciousness, to move into the higher state, using all our effort in the world outside. We know that the money cannot buy happiness. We know the relations cannot bring that peace, anything in the world. But here comes a point that, what is that point? That we convert, or by in ignorance, not by, but in ignorance, we claim means as our goals, and the goal becomes the means. If I earn that much, it will definitely bring me happiness. So we have converted the means as a goals, which is not at all possible. It will not happen. So when we convert the means into the goals, then we use everything of the world as a proxy for my peace and happiness, which is not possible, and that causes a lot of suffering. Proxy can work. If I have no money, you can give me the money, but you cannot go to the restroom for me, you cannot eat for me. There is no proxy. Same way, we cannot have a proxy for freedom from the suffering. We have to know it, we have to understand it, we have to practice it, we have to discover our real nature by ourselves. No one can do it. No one can do it. One master says, if you want to be real, you have to be real self. Now, normally we say, no, I'm very authentic and real. So this master says, you want to be real? Yes, you have to be the real self. You have to recognize, you have to realize that I am the pure consciousness of the nature of peace and happiness. You must not be different from that real self. So this master, which we are studying, who lived almost more than 1,000 years ago, And he summarized all the teachings of yoga, tantra, mantra, mindfulness, meditation, Buddhism into one. He says by listening and learning, by understanding, and by meditation, we can reach to that state. It is all about understanding. It is all about clarity that leads to the knowledge. So you might remember that we are covering the first 18 verses in which he summarizes and he summarizes the he summarizes how to understand the real self with reference to a metaphor. And after 18 verses, then he goes on elaborating to remove all the doubts so that we can be in the state of mindfulness 24/7. So if you remember the three levels that we have been talking about, first is the pure consciousness, and the pure consciousness borrows its consciousness to the mind. It becomes a reflected consciousness, it becomes a conscious mind. In that conscious mind, we become aware of the world outside, world of people, place, relations, time, causes, other factors. But that world do not touch the pure consciousness. It always lives in the, it always lives in the mind. That must be very clear in our mind. Pure consciousness, it is something like there is an ocean. So we have to ask, does the water make an ocean or ocean makes the water? First thing. Then the ocean to the waves. The water remains as it is, whether it is present in an ocean or a glass of water. But the waves and the ocean gives a different picture. So it is all about the reflected consciousness. What is reflected consciousness? It is the conscious mind. We also understood that when I use the word I am, it has two factors. One is reflected consciousness, another is the pure consciousness. I'm speaking. So when I say I am speaking, it comes from the conscious mind. And separate I am plus speaking, and that I am is the pure consciousness. In almost everything, I am angry, reflected consciousness in relationship to the world. And I am is pure consciousness. Nothing happens to that. Like nothing happens to the water. You have the wave, you have the tsunami, you have the flood. So the master in the earlier verse said that ignorant person do not recognize the two I's, not EYE, but two I am. When we do not recognize, we become the I am, that is the mind. Mind is subjected to the change and it causes the delusion, and ultimately we start suffering. That is how we also understood an example of the two birds. One bird on the tree. Tree is the world outside, and one bird is constantly jumping. That is what we become the doer, we become the knower, we suffer, we have the anxiety, we have the stress, we have the pleasures in our relationship. Sometimes we have a pain in our relationship. That is what the bird that is jumping constantly in the world is the reflected consciousness, is the mind. And now, with that understanding, if we go to the next, the 11th verse. The 11th verse, if I say 11th verse says, belonging to the reflected consciousness, the individual is the world outside. And certainly it is not the real self. We will explain it. So if I translate that, he says that belonging to the reflected consciousness, the individual and the world are not the real self. Then he says this understanding is called the knowledge. And the moment this mind is settled in the knowledge, we are already in the state of mindfulness. And then he makes another statement that this knowledge is achieved through self-inquiry. Now ask yourself, to whom this world belongs to? To whom my world of members of the family, my assets, my possessions, my miseries, my stress, all to whom this world belongs to. This belongs to the mind, the reflected consciousness. This does not belong to the real self. Can I live constantly into that awareness? We are already living into the state of mindfulness. But because we take it, we accept it, we blindly accept the world outside belongs to me, so that world starts living in my mind. Why, in a waking state, in a dream state, the moment we wake up to the same world again and again. Our master says this is the fundamental error. It is wrong. So this comes out from this verse. That is the first thing. Let us see what we can come. What I said, the world outside belongs to that reflected consciousness. The pure consciousness does not say that you are my honey, this is my money. That is why money cannot buy happiness. Can you see that truth? We cannot have a proxy for peace and happiness. The money cannot be the proxy. Relationship cannot be the proxy. How simple it is to understand. That is the first error we commit all the time. Because of that error, my mind keeps on running outside. It says, no, you are responsible for my stress and suffering. Second error, coming out from this verse, this is what the master is pointing out, that the world outside as being something true, which is constantly changing. Knowledge tells us that this world is constantly changing. Nothing is still, nothing is constant. And when nothing is constant, it cannot be true. So our mind, due to the ignorance, gives the status of reality to the world outside. And the world is a false superimposition. Now go back to that metaphor. Pure consciousness, causal state, subtle state, and on the subtle state, the sketch is done and the world appears the same thing here is happening. So now ask yourself, is partial acceptance of the knowledge possible? I accept Ashok partially. He cannot remain as a human being. So there is a level of ignorance. This is what we do in our day-to-day life. We cannot accept one aspect, not the other. What that means, it simply means it is not possible to see only the world as being the false and accept me as an individual, which is true. That individuality comes from the conscious mind. Find out so simple. When I say I am speaking for the sake of convenience, living in the material world, it is okay. But can I maintain that awareness? Let me know who is speaking. Lips, larynx, mind. Where is that I who is speaking? Where is that I who is eating? That is reflected consciousness. We have given the status of I-ness. But behind that status of I-ness, the real pure consciousness is there. So a partial solution of accepting only one aspect of knowledge is not possible. This is the verse explains. But then he said, that knowledge or means that higher state of mindfulness can be attained by self-inquiry. He did not say it can be achieved by the practice. That is what is our Saturday session is. So he says, learn to dissociate the world, one, the reflected consciousness which is acting as I. Let us learn to dissociate. There comes the dissociate in our mind. We need not to dissociate physically. We become aware that the entire world belongs to the reflected consciousness. It is not the real self. The real self does not have the world. The real self is just a pure consciousness. It is the space in my room, in your room, in one country, in another country. That space is infinite. That space is like the pure consciousness. But it'll remember all the time, if we are not a seeker, this journey will backfire. After some time, you will say, this beard guy is teaching, that is all rubbish. No, we are not a seeker. So the master emphasizes the knowledge removes the ignorance. What is that ignorance? The world and the one I created by the reflected consciousness is the ignorance. So the Master clearly says, start understanding and reflecting this world belongs to the reflected consciousness, not to the pure consciousness. The painting, all the people, the mountain and the river belongs to the subtle body, the creation of the mind. The painter had thought and has sketched, but the pure consciousness remains as it is. Buddha perhaps has gone a step further. Buddha says this word, the moment you create your own word through the mind, is a disease. And what is the prescription medicine? Knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of the real self. They have their own expression. Sometimes, that expression appeals to, yes, world. No, I have a lot of problems. The world. I am grieving. I told you that British women, Queen Elizabeth died, so he told me that I'm in grief for the last 1 week and I will continue to be in grief for another week. Without inquiring what exactly is the grief and where the grief lives. It lives in the reflected consciousness, that is mind, which created a false I in relationship to the world outside. So it has to be done by the self-inquiry with the teacher. This is what the Mass is. Now see the another verse. Mind becomes the moment I accept the mind is the real I, it becomes the thinker, it becomes the knower, it becomes the doer. So the Master here says, as a seeker, we have to inquire into what? Just think, inquire into what? So now that is what the three bases of the entire Eastern wisdom. Whether you are doing kundalini or mindfulness from the Buddhism or meditation or any practice, it has the three bases. Fundamental, you can say that it is the way the physics. Its basis is matter, or matter is electron, proton, and neutron. And then it acts as a wave, it acts as an energy. And from there we entered into the quantum physics. Same way. Three bases. And our masters have given a different name: individual consciousness, universal consciousness, transcendental consciousness. So transcendental consciousness is the real self, universal consciousness is the world outside, created by the mind, that is the individual consciousness. In other traditions, it is also known as man, nature, and the God. Different words are given. It is also in tantra, it is known as Jiva, Shakti, and Shiva. So now we have three things. I feel it, I feel in ignorance that I am an individual. Okay, inquire it. An individual has a world outside. And then there is something which is beyond the individual and the world. So when Master says, teaching of this Eastern wisdom says, when that individual, which is the mind, becomes a seeker, goes on to the inquiring what is the real self, what happens to that individual, which is created by the mind. What happens? That is what happens to a salt doll that goes in search of an ocean. Salt doll. A doll made from the salt wants to search an ocean. It enters, jumps into there, and merges there. Did you get it? That individual, why that individual self created by the mind merges? It has no existence. We are living in ignorance. What happens to the wave after it rises? What happens to the wave? Where the wave is gone, then it falls down. But so both now, as the individual merges, so the world created by the individual also merges. What is left? Out of the three, only one thing is left. That is our real self. That is our real self. Another word which needs to be understood, the word refers to the inquiry. Inquiry, how we do the inquiry, like the scientific inquiry. You start asking the question and find the answer. What has to be inquired? So here the subject of inquiry is different. We have understood individual, world, and the real self. Three bases. Three bases. So as we undertake an inquiry, self-inquiry with the teacher based on the principles of the Eastern wisdom, what we discover that individual which is constantly jumping like the bird on a tree, that means the word creates the delusion, creates the grief, creates the suffering. Another word that is used. So be very clear about it. What we say, that individual and the world should be negated. Why it should be negated? Because they are false. So what will happen if I negate it? I am face to face with the real self. That is what the mindfulness. But why it should be negated? The real self can only be revealed when the false is discovered. The water can only be discovered when I negate the wave. The wave is there. So I negate the name in the form of the wave. What is left? I say wave is just the water. Did you get it? We're going deeper. Simple. We need not to do anything physically. No action is required, no practice is required, just an understanding. The sky is not blue, but after understanding the sky is not blue, still it appears blue. It will consistently will appear blue, but behind that we have a knowledge inside, we have an awareness inside that it is not blue. You are my honey husband first, man second is the problem. I'm giving, other similes. Branding a girl as a wife and living with that status causes the problem. Otherwise, the man and women do not have any problem. I'm a man to you, so we don't have any problem. But the moment now related, You are my honey and you have not done this. Can you say to the man? That so our master says I have to do the inquiry in order to remove that false notion. So once the false notion is removed, what happens? Neither the individual nor the word exists. That is the meaning of negating. Even we continue to see through the mind, but deeper inside, after the inquiry, we realize wave is nothing but the water. Ocean is nothing but the water. So that kind of an inquiry is required. Once we have that clarity in our side, clarity in our head, what happens to the reflected consciousness? It becomes a perfect instrument of the pure consciousness, and then we are in the state of mindfulness that cannot be undone in any situation, in any relationship. We have completed the 12 verses until 18 verses. He summarizes. So next time we will take the 13th and the 14th verse, which tells us how to inquire, what to inquire. Again, close your eyes. Eyes are closed and eyes are closed. Pay attention to that I who heard me and follows the instruction. So now you are 100% clear. It is the conscious mind or the reflected consciousness plays the role of an I. Let it play, but refuse to accept it. Where? In your head. That it is not me. You start the car, the engine starts and it's playing, it's running. Don't claim that you are running the car. Same thing, eyes are closed. How fast we move into the state of a comfort and ease, or we keep on moving our body. We keep on moving your body means what? The reflected consciousness has taken the role of an I, claims I'm the real I. First it claims I'm the real I, then it claims that I have. Why don't you understand? Let me adjust and align. You see, from one first point of ignorance, it creates millions of the thoughts and put me into the delusion. No, but I have to understand what is this comfort. Oh, let me settle into the comfort. What is that comfort? So again, see, we say that I experience the comfort, but where I experience it is in the mind. So am I an experiencer? But I'm not the mind. And still the comfort is there. What prevents the comfort to be same mind? That is why we say the mind is the cause of the suffering and mind is the cause of liberation. So we are living in an extraordinary awareness. Now let me give an interpretation. We are inquiring in a mode of an inquiry, but let me give an interpretation of being comfortable. You look at the neck joint. Look. Look has nothing to do with doing anything. Look means you are aware. And then the mind experiences the comfort. Okay. And then there is a steadiness. So that steadiness cannot belong to the body, the mind, the breath, the intellect, and the ego. The reflection of that steadiness comes from higher source. And you are aware of that. That is enough. But how you experience that steadiness, you negated in your mind. Negated is not a negative word. You negated the constant changing mind and the world outside in your head. When I negate the wandering mind, what is left? I'm steady all the time. But first, when I claim this is the mind, this is me, this is wandering, so then I have crazy thoughts, or good thoughts, or bad thoughts, we are already caught in delusion. I believe you are getting it, and especially those who are attending this session regularly. I'm repeating again. We all are together doing an inquiry. So these are not the instructions, the practice. We are doing an inquiry together. Take it again so that we see it clearly. Shoulder joints. So our goal is to negate what I am not. And I told you, negating is not a negative term. It's nothing to react. What we negate? The false. What is false is constantly changing. What is constantly changing, reflected in the mind, is the word. And then we go to the mind itself. That is also constantly changing. So we negate both. So when we negate both, we are already there. We were there, but we did not recognize. By negating the recognition, the cognition comes. And that cognition is mindfulness. I told you, we are doing the inquiry together. So now, with that sense of understanding and the purpose, we are aware of the shoulder joints, aware or looking or feeling, whatever it is. Then we experience sensation, comfort, and steadiness. Now we have to inquire about what we said. Sensation. Sensation comes from the sense organ. Okay? The comfort experience in the mind, steadiness comes from somewhere deeper. So negation means recognizing what is changing. Sensation. When I told you to be aware of the shoulder joint, you were, and then the mind changed its stand. It came to the sensation. From the fraction of a second, it changed to a comfort. It changed to the steadiness. Just a recognition of this change is negating the mind and the world. You're not fighting the world. You're not fighting with the world. You're not suppressing. You're not controlling. I believe you all understand that point. Normally, in modern psychology, especially the modern psychologists, claim that we teach a kind of suppression and control. No control, no suppression. We just recognize. We use the cognitive ability that what appears as a wave is actually a water. What appears as my home and your home is actually a space. So you see, when I recognize the water, I transcend what is changing. Where I transcend inside me. So do I stop seeing the waves? No, I keep on seeing the waves, but still now with the wave and I see the water in it. I see the real self, the pure consciousness in the body, in the mind. You see, that sort of inquiry we are doing together. Almost previous 10-15 sessions, we should be very clear about it. If we are not clear, it will not help. No, it helps me. You don't understand. I understand about me. That is where the individual factor causes the problem. Because we don't listen to this teacher. So we inquire. The first factor is change. Mind can recognize the change. And who recognizes the change in the mind? Your consciousness. So the first mind recognizes the change in the world. And when we ask the question, who recognizes the change in the mind? There has to be someone. And that someone is the real knower. Whether I say anything or I do not say. I'm again giving a metaphor with the wave in the water. Whether I see the wave in the water, I don't see. The wave remains the water. Whether I gave any instruction or not, you remain who you are by negating what is changing. The individual created by the mind is changing. The individual created the world that is constantly changing. It's very difficult to explain, but it's very easy to be into that state. Do you see the water in the wave? No, I see only the wave. Ignorant. Yes, I only see the water appearing as a wave, reality. We are learning to be very clear. Normally, everyone uses the word, oh, world is a delusion. Then what about you? Who says the world is delusion? Who is saying that? And that causes a lot of problem. And that is why the master explains step by step. Recognize the world. What is this world? Now, another part that is also important. So, what is this world? You're just aware of the material world or world of relations, of place, of time. And now we ask the question, is this body is the part of the world or you? Body is also the world. We forget that. And that causes a delusion. Body came from the world. I know you from where this statement has come from the word. See? Where I'm teaching in the world. No, I'm teaching. So when we say the word, not only the word, material word that appears too far from me. What is the point of delusion? Your body is a part of the world, but my body is me. We only need a cognitive ability to be into that awareness. I believe you got it. I see you means I see your body. So you are the world. But when I see this body, I said, this is me. How it is possible that one body is me and other's body is a part of the world? We just, so what happens? You negated, this is not me. How did you negate it? Through the knowledge, through an awareness. So what happens? Now, whatever the body does, you are not. Whatever the wave does, it is still the water. I'm constantly giving you a simile We are comparing the metaphor for understanding. Oh, then what about the breath? Same thing. What about the mind? Same thing. No, but who is looking at the mind? Who claims comfort and steadiness in the mind? So this is what the master was saying, that we accept half the truth. Where is the half truth? The world outside is changing, I know. But deeper inside, we have a deep clinging to the body that claims I am the body. So I negate half, I accept the half falsely. That will not work. Last time I discussed briefly just sitting. At least mind should know and mind should express. So what is that expression? It is just sitting. And that just sitting is known as the word Zen. Zen. You might have heard the word of Zen meditation. So when we say Zen meditation, it demands extraordinary awareness, the power of discernment and dispassion, guided by the self-inquiry, negating the world and the individual created by the mind, not simply just I'm sitting, I'm in mindfulness. In the beginning, it demands an effort, and after that, it is purely an effortless and natural. Just sitting, does it remind you of the bird who is sitting, filled with the presence And at the same time, the other bird is jumping on the tree. You may have the thoughts and feelings, the sensations, the past and the memories, but you have already negated it. So they come and go. They don't disturb you. Pay attention to what I said. They don't disturb you. That you cannot be disturbed. The mind shifted its stand from the individual I created by the mind and the world to the real. It merged. You're there. That is the key to न मे द्वेष रागो न मे लोभ मोहो मदो नैव मेनेव मात्सर्यभाव न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्. So what is that state? One master explains beautifully. Nami Dvesharagu. I'm neither the attachment nor the detachment, neither the greed nor the delusion, nor the pride nor the arrogance. Arrogance pertaining to identification of the body, the possessions, and the wealth. And then he says, I have nothing to do with any religion. Such a bold statement. Na dharmo, na chartho, na kamo, na moksha. Nothing to do with the wealth, but it doesn't mean, I told you, the wave goes with the water. Who am I? I am the pure consciousness. Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. We'll undergo a deeper understanding of the negation process, but this is just an understanding. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences. Bring the hands down. And now we will share our experiences. So how are you, David and Jerry?
Thank you, sir. It was, I always love the Saturday sessions combined with the Monday, Thursday sessions because they're different but come from a different angle. Um, One of the things that I realized after our last session on Thursday is I thought to myself, I'm going to fire my mind. And
Good.
so I fired the mind. The mind came back a couple of times and knocked on the door and wanted to come back to work. And I said, no, you've been fired. Get out of here. So it's been an interesting and sort of freeing couple of days with that simple little analyst, analogy. So I just wanted to share that.
That firing is negating the mind. That is what we understand. And the following session will understand very deeply how this negation process works. So when you said firing the mind, we are not taking a negative stand or reacting stand. It is with awareness. Mind, whatever you are doing, you keep on doing. I'm not a part of you. And the moment we experience that I'm not a part of you, what a relief. That is what you explained. Beautiful. How are you, Jerry?
Sir, good, thank you. Just a lot of space and observe, not even observing really. I'm just there, just being. It's great.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. Just whether you see observing or witnessing, we are looking at this world as if I'm totally separate, too far from it. That is another way to experience that, to understand that negation process. Many authors, American authors, especially one professor in the Princeton University, he translated this text, and so in his view, that negation is more a kind of a suppression. No, it is not. You just enter into the space. Beautiful. How are you, Sam? Where is Sam? Here it is.
Good. Uh, Experienced a sense of blankness and timelessness.
We have to live in the state of timelessness all the time. Very good. So, how are you, Terry? Let us go to Terry. Her maid was putting the cup and trying to call Terry, but Terry was not disturbed. I love it.
Well, I opened my eyes to see if she needed me to see her, but she didn't. So she was okay. She just I really didn't want to come out of it today.
Beautiful.
I just was really enjoying
Enjoying. That is what,
working.
perfectly normal. You look at the Terry, that is what happens. That is why I never say that I will manage or help you managing the symptoms. But do you remember, Terry, a couple of months ago, you said that made me crazy?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and now,
yeah.
what a beautiful.
That's right.
Yes, yes, you shared me. I remember. How are you, Vaibhav?
Sir, I'm good. It's like that while negating these things, I'm actually freeing myself from whatever is coming, and then also realizing that whatever happening is my mind is only limited to the complete knowledge, and I am being a part of that. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's a good inquiry. That's a good
so,
contemplation and reflection.
my mind is very limited, and then I'm being a part of. It's totally stable and totally peaceful.
Beautiful, beautiful. I used to give another expression sometime when we see a person we claim I have a negative vibration and the mind is ready to react. So what will happen if you are reacting to the world? The moment you recognize that, no, come on, I'm reacting to the world outside. Not required. The mind calms down. Mind calms down. But we forget. We say, I have a lot of arrogance and the pride and I'm reacting. Jerry, are you aware? Yes, that is what happens. Then even the beautiful maid makes us crazy. Beautiful. That's wonderful. How are you, Anastasia? We have three. Yeah.
Thank you. It was very deep, and I feel my body feels extremely light. And it's interesting. I'm having a flu, and I have discomfort in my nose. But during meditation, I didn't feel anything, and I just remembered that before this discomfort, there is comfort. Like this is after going. And sometimes I think when I'm sick, I know that I'm supposed to feel discomfort, so I am feeling it.
Yeah, very good. That's another good explanation. And I appreciated you along once you were disconnected in the last Thursday session. So I told you that she volunteered to translate me into the volunteering session that I do in each Monday. That becomes the part of contemplation and reflection for her. That is the sign of her fast progress, because she's translating that. So she has to understand, then she has to translate. Without understanding, how can you translate? But that understanding also is helping you. So many masters have recognized these kind of activities, and they have scribed in the different text. Briefly, that is a part of the karma yoga. Let us go to Kate. Yes, Kate. How are you?
Namaste. Thank you for the non-practice.
Very good. Keep on doing it. So, there are two people left or one? Ashok. I think Ashok is left. How are you, Ashok?
Sir, I'm very fine and feeling very light, and his body was completely stable. And during the daytime, as we consider other people's are they are the same as we, and they are the physical body, we are the physical body. But that is not the. We both
Yeah.
are the real self. Suppose
Yes.
a housemaid, suppose servant, suppose driver, or any other person when we are meeting in the market or
Yeah.
so. All are the same. We are the same from universe. I mean, water is same. The waves are different. The mind comes into a peace in that.
Beautiful. Do you see Ashok? I left India, then you started progress. Otherwise, we were together for 20 years. Every time he used to come in, I said, do this. Okay, I have done this. And after a few days, done. But it's all depends on a lot of other factors. Not Ashok is not fully responsible. I'm also responsible for it. So
I am
that is,
responsible.
that is all for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Namaste.
sir. Namaste,
Namaste.
everyone.
Namaste.
Thank you.
I have to